Hello, it's Kate with the Thrive with Kate podcast, and I'm here with Leah Murphy of leahpieramurphy.com. And she's a somatic experiencing practitioner, an herbalist, a yoga health coach, and she weaves her passion for nervous system health with the wisdom of plant medicine and personal practice into her daily life. So I first met Leah when she was coming into yoga health coaching and she was running her herbal apothecary. And it's just been really fun, Leah, to see you move more into your work in somatic work and healing trauma and nervous system. And I know, my background in Ayurvedic medicine, in Ayurveda, like the nervous system, it's like so different than how we understand it in the West. It's so well, or maybe or how I grew up understanding the nervous system. And I think now a lot of like the trauma informed practitioners are really weaving together a lot of that deeper awareness of nervous system health that was just part of, basic Ayurveda 101 for so long, which is that it's the background to everything.
Yeah, I'm so curious on how, like, more on the specific Ayurvedic view, because as I started doing yoga health coaching and getting into more of the wisdom of Ayurveda, like it was something I've dabbled with probably for a decade before I really got quote unquote serious about it. But I remember at one point, I'm like, this is all the same. This nervous system regulation that I preach and teach, it's like Ayurveda speaks to it too. And other like traditions speak to it too, like Buddhism, all these things. I love that so much because it just makes it so much more available for so many people, right?
Yeah. Right. That this is the same thing. We just use different words. We're landing on the same, like everyone has a body, bodies have nervous systems, nervous system.
Yeah. It's hard to feel, right? Like, yeah.
And it's the backdrop of everything, like just that sense of your nervous system's controlling your digestion, your immune system, your emotions, how you relate and interact.
Yeah.
So I'd really, and then I also really, I feel like connected with you around Sitka, Alaska. So Leah's from Sitka, and my sister went to University of Fairbanks, and her roommate was from Sitka, and I got just a touch of it's just it's just so different for a lot of people that are leading more suburban or conventional lives, just like the access to the wildness and the plants and like big nature. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious too, if like just how that informs, just your consciousness or your drive to healing and nervous system work.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that it does for me is that it makes, I feel contained. So containment is a word we use in nervous system practice, right? The ability to be with the feelings and the things without being overwhelmed by them. So for me here living in Sitka, Alaska, even though it's an island, even though it's quote unquote remote, and to get off the island, you have to take an airplane or get on a boat, right? We don't have access to the road system. So, it's remote, it's rural, but like physically contained, like the mountains are right there, the ridge. I could just see it out my window. And then the ocean, Pacific Ocean, is like, I can't see it here, but it's like half a mile away right there. So like just contained, held by nature, right? And the community here too is so amazing and supportive, because in order for us to thrive here as people living on this little island in the middle of nowhere, essentially, like we have to show up for each other. Yeah. So for me, there's a sense of belonging in a way. There's a sense of welcome. There's a sense of being part of something. There's a sense of support all around from the people and from nature. Like as we were talking, right, there's 2 little deer in my yard, probably some yearlings. I think they were doe, didn't have antlers, but and that just makes me think of food and wild food and how, the support of the land is and how abundant it is. Like right now, like the spruce tips are going crazy, and, it's elderberry time and the berries are going to come out soon, and just like all that kind of supports. For me, knowing that there is that access available and all those levels makes me feel settled inside, makes me feel a little bit more like, okay, I can do this, right? Versus living in a city where I've done before, where I love cities and I go back to them once in a while, but even more and more so when I do, I just feel it's overwhelming. It's very overwhelming. There's a lot of stimulation going on. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to talk about building capacity for the feelings of the body as the key to healing. And so for people who maybe don't know the word somatic, like, can we start there before we go into this building capacity for feeling, or maybe it's completely related to how we define somatic?
Yeah. Well, somatic just means soma, just means of the body. It just refers to the body. Right. And so building capacity for the body, building capacity for actually having feelings of the body. So what that means is like oftentimes we have a feeling and we shut it down. A feeling meaning a sensation or an emotion, a physical sensation and emotion. A lot of us walk around with a lot of anxiety. Some people have chronic pain or even minimal pain or just muscle tension, whatever it might be, emotional pain that hasn't been able to be processed or felt because it's too much. There's a definition of trauma that I love that is the inability to complete a protective response. And I want to extend that to include not just a protective response, but some kind of impulse of expression. So an expression of joy, of creativity, or of protection, right? There's a charge in the body that is created when we need energy to do those things. But if we don't get to do them, that charge gets shut down because it can't continue on that energy level because it's just damaging to the system. So it gets shut down, but it stays in the system. And over time, that's what creates nervous system dysregulation, this energy that's trapped in the system. And so we walk around feeling not good, like we have muscle tension or anxiety or overwhelm or depression or whatever it might be, which are really just symptoms of this trapped energy inside of that we can't express. We can't get to complete whatever it was wanting to do. And so building capacity then is learning how to be with these feelings and sensations that we've been holding inside our body, unconsciously, of course. So we're not like, people aren't really aware that this is what's going on, right? That's why I love this work. But slowly. One of the words that they use in somatic experiencing is titration. So it's a term from chemistry where if you want to combine, you have two solutions you want to combine together, but if you just dump one into the other, like explosion, right? Explosion will happen. And so the remedy to that is to take one drop at a time, let it sizzle, back down. And we do that because sometimes opening up people to the feelings, the sensations of their bodies can be too much, can be overwhelming. It can potentially make them relive some kind of difficult or traumatic event that they've been working so hard not to feel. And we don't want that to happen. So building capacity then is touching in a little bit to the feeling and then coming out of it. And also reminding your body and your system and your brain of the actual safety in the present moment. Like that part is actually key. I might feel overwhelmed inside, but as I look around my space, it's like, there's nothing going on here. There's no threat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That reminds me of yesterday for me. It's like, you're fine. And now feel what's going on. So I just want to kind of break this down for people. So it's like because it's so counterculture to pharmaceutical culture. Like pharmaceutical culture says, you feel something you don't want to feel, here's something so you don't have to feel it.
Yeah, let's make it go away, right?
Let's make it go away. And this is saying you're feeling something you don't want to feel, let's feel it. Let's actually see what's going on in there in tiny doses so that as we build capacity, if there's a deep well of things that need to be felt to be released or processed or embodied, that we can do that in a way that each step of the way feels safe, or that there's a reference to safety, that there's a reference to I can build capacity here.
Totally. I love that you said that I can build capacity, because that's the I can. That's what this work can do. Like I can be with this thing. I can have I can have autonomy over my own body in a way, right? Like I don't have to be told which way by just the feeling. But yes, like we live in a culture for sure that just wants to shut everything down, right? And we have, sorry, Regan, you look like you have a thought on that.
I do, because I'm thinking of this friend, it was a couple of years ago, and she was diagnosed with like 0 to stage 4 cancer kind of thing, like one of those. And it was maybe a couple months after the diagnosis, and she was sorting through her options. She was at my friend's house, and we had kind of set up a situation where we could, actually, no, it was at my house, where we could drop into deeper experiential conversation, if you will. Like it wasn't like how you doing in the line of the grocery store. It was like, in one of my sacred spaces where we could just like talk. And what became aware to me was that she didn't want to feel the fear, right? And how in a lot of the Western, and it's not even just Western, but in a lot of diagnostic medicine, it's like, you have this, we're not going to talk about the fear. Here's the solution. So here's hope. So you don't have to, so then you can pin all of that energy on this plan, right? This hope. And it's kind of like spiritual bypass, right? Like where there's just like a bypass of like, the fear's still there. And then the fear's still
Totally.
controlling the nervous system.
Yes.
And the nervous
Yeah.
system's controlling the immune system. And you need a functional immune system with any cancer treatment. And so and I just want to kind of presence the moment, because when I was aware that she could, and another friend was there who was a healer, and afterwards we're both like, oh, she can't allow herself to feel the fear, because the fear would overwhelm her so much, and she feels like that would be giving in and not fighting the fight. And so even this language that we have. And so I'm just wondering, like, in that, where you're like, wow, there's a lot of capacity that needs to be built, and a lot, like, the stronger the fear, it's almost like that deeper the well of fear is, the more it can affect a lot of other moment by moment decisions, but in an unconscious place.
Yeah. Because when you're in fear, you're still in a place of survival, whether you know it or not, right? You can't heal in a place when you're in a place of survival. You just can't. That's that fight flight part of the nervous system, or freeze, right? Whatever, that part of the nervous system that's responsible for connection and healing and higher learning and creativity is just shut off when you're in survival, right? And it's so common. Like, fear is tricky because it's scary. People fear the fear. But like you said, like, yeah, like, it's still in there. So like, how can you, it is like bypassing. So you do have to work with it. Sometimes, well, the person though, like, I don't know how your friend is, but you know, the first step would be to acknowledge that, yeah, I have fear and I don't want to feel it. Like, that would be the very first step, right?
Yeah.
That'd be like, no, don't even go there.
So and then because we did, and then and the reason I love just talking about like real things is because then we can make it, it's like everyone's like, oh yeah, I've been there, I have a friend who's there or whatnot. And it is the conflict. Well, if I feel the fear, then it'll overwhelm and I won't be fighting the fight. And so what is that like, you know what I mean? The sense that it's like protecting, like, if I actually to feel it, that means I'm giving into the disease. I'm not fighting it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really know though, because that sounds like her personal story behind it.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's different. And like, so what is that for her? Like, I don't know. There might be some kind of like pattern of that kind of behavior in a way, or that thing, if I fear it, then I won't be able to fight the fight, because the fear will take all my attention and energy away from what's truly important, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And I'd be giving in or surrendering that I'm afraid to die. And then I'm focusing on death and not focusing on the medicine. Or
but little does she know though, is that fear creates, like you're saying, this constriction, this dysregulation in the body by just holding on to it, right? Yeah. And so to help people with that, I mean, this work can be very, very slow, depending on one's nervous system, what's going on, how much dysregulation they have. It all comes back to our childhoods and what happened then. But sometimes for some folks, you have to work really, 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 really slowly. Really slowly. For some people, like, well, one thing I often start off with people is just like, what would it just be like just to acknowledge that fear is there and you don't have to do anything about it. There it is. I fear. And then sometimes I offer people just like, put a hand on your body just to say, hi, I know you're there. Most people, this is fine. So I've worked with some people put this they put their hand on their chest, and then immediately they just feel overwhelmed, right? Just that body is too much for them to handle.
And is that usually because of like on attachment parenting, like they weren't held when they needed to be held as baby?
Potentially, right? It definitely speaks to early developmental trauma, or even some kind of other abusive shock trauma situation where they feel totally unsafe, right? It's not safe for the body. It's not safe to have feelings, right? So there's so many different situations where that could have happened, and starting in early childhood for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go more into as we are able to feel and speak from the feeling place of the body, right? So the body's feeling things. We're able to drop in the present and feel and express from that moves us from sympathetic nervous system more into parasympathetic nervous system. It goes from more fight, flight, freeze, fawn into rest and digest. And now there's a healing capacity or energy that starts to get turned on.
Yeah. Well, can I clarify something?
Please.
So fight, flight energy is the sympathetic, freeze is parasympathetic, and rest and digest is parasympathetic. It speaks to the vagus nerve. So this is me getting a little dorky science.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the vagus nerve has two branches. It has the front, which is the ventral, just the scientific name for front, and it has the back, the dorsal, scientific name for back or backwards. The back one, when that one is on like a lot, like they call it high tone dorsal, that's the freeze response coming on. That's shut down. When it's on a little bit, that's when you're able to access deeper states of rest and that rest and digest. This is what babies are in when they're growing and developing, when they sleep a lot, right? Because they're growing, and this is the part of the nervous system that needs to be on for deep healing to happen, like really deep physical healing when we're sleeping, right? Autophagy, all those things like that. There's the low tone dorsal, the back part of the vagus nerve on just a little bit. The front part, okay, I'll pause there. Just to
no, you're good. No, keep going.
I could go fast. The front part of the vagus nerve, the ventral part, that's the parasympathetic part that is responsible for social engagement, right? The nerve endings from that is interesting. It's from the diaphragm up. So it goes into your heart, your chest, your lungs, your neck, your throat, your mouth, your nose, your eyes, your ears. So like all these like interesting sense organs and ways we communicate with other people, right? It's that part. And this is the part that is on when we're really feeling good, when we feel regulated. This is the part that needs to be able to be accessed. And it's through connection with other people, finding safety with other people, but also through connection for things that are inspiring, like nature or music or art or whatever that might be, right? Also, so there's two parts of the parasympathetic. And so what was your question? Like back to like, what does healing look like then? Like, how do you come out of these things and what is healing? Is that what you asked me? I went off.
Yeah. Or like, how is it? So we'll just use an example, right? So let's say we have a pain or like, just chronic pain somewhere in our body, right? And we want to not just wish it would go away.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's usually it. And that is what usually leads us to the pill or the surgery, like pinning hope on like, if I just fix it, right, with something exogenous, right? Because there's this difference between exogenous and endogenous. So exogenous, if I do something outside of me, get surgery, take a pill, make it go away, to I have this chronic pain in my body. I just heard this podcast on somatic healing.
What can I do?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, pain is an interesting.
And what is happening? Yeah. So what can I do and what is happening? Because you've tapped into a bunch of what is happening. So I just want you to kind of pull it together.
Sure. Well, first I want to say too, pain can be related to an actual injury. So there's that. But pain in the somatic world, Peter Levine, the founder of somatic experiencing, he has this wonderful quote that says, pain is trapped sensation. Isn't that cool? Pain is trapped. So the idea or the thought behind that is, or maybe it's reality too, is that, pain is like I talked about those responses that wanted to move, protection or expression, expressions that wanted to move. And there's not enough safety around to do that. So the body, that's the freeze response. It comes on. The muscles in our body actually constrict to keep that feeling under wraps, right? Which causes muscle tension, which over time, if that becomes a chronic thing in a certain part of our body, can create pain in the body. So really the key for pain and any of this work really is to learn how to find safety, right? Like that's safety having the body. And that starts one of the very first things, as I mentioned this before, is checking out where you are in the world. Recognizing, I like using the quote, there's no tiger in the room. The fancy word for this is neuroception. You know that word, neuroception? Neuroception. It's such a good word. I love words. I love that word. I love saying that word, neuroception. But it's basically how that describes how our brains are always scanning for threat or safety. They're always on, right? It's always doing that. That's part of the function of the autonomic nervous system. It's an automatic response, right? Just like the immune system is an automatic system and our breathing is an automatic system. So our brain is and our nervous systems are always scanning for safety and threat and then responds accordingly. And so building safety involves recognizing the present moment, what's actually happening in the here and now. And then safety also then requires learning how to be with the feelings, right? And we do that through many ways. One of the things I like to teach people first is through resourcing. So we have a pain, we want to make it go away. We reach for, well, I'll call it a coping mechanism, a pill, smoking weed, drinking, eating, whatever it might be, exercise. We want to just shut it down, make it go away. A resource then is something that can help to soothe or settle or make it feel less bad or just a little bit less painful, right? It doesn't have to take it away. It doesn't even have to make you feel good, but it enables you to be with whatever you're feeling in a way so that you don't reach for that thing to shut it down. That makes sense.
And people are like, but well, I want to shut it down.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. I have that feeling all the time. Like yesterday, I was a kind of an emotional state. I was a little bit of a wreck, and I just sat there in my kitchen and I knew what to do. I just sat there and one of the things that can be really helpful is like feeling your edges of your body, like containment. So there's this one beautiful hold. This is taught in somatic experiencing. It's not new, but just you take your right hand, you put it under your left armpit. You take your left hand, you put it somewhere on your right side. They call it the self hug. Right. How does that feel when you do this, Kate? Like, do you notice a difference?
Oh yeah, I do right away. It's cool. Yeah. It's like instant especially for receptive. So I can just know, like, some people are like, I don't feel anything. Well, it's like, that could be a question of receptivity.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things I've noticed the more I've worked with somatic healing, somatic practitioners, is it is capacity building. You get better at it.
You do.
And then yeah, go ahead.
Which is awesome, is what we want. But sometimes people are like, oh, now I can feel more. Now I can notice that pain in my shoulder I didn't notice before. Or now my emotions are going crazy. Or now I'm just feeling so angry all the time. I'm like, yeah, that can be intense and uncomfortable, but that's a sign that things are changing. Your body is starting to feel and process. And sure, there's going to have to be some fine tuning and integrating of all this stuff that you're learning how to feel. But ultimately, it's a good thing. Right.
Yeah. It reminds me of like the healing crisis, know, like a detox certification. We're just like, yeah, like this is part of it. I've talked to other doctors, functional medicine, healing doctor type things, and people that like, oh, you shouldn't have to have a healing crisis. And I'm like, yeah. And then there's just the reality of we don't always have that much control on that valve. Right.
Yeah.
And that it's okay. Like, can we embrace the journey, trust the process? I was looking at my Danskin box. I got a new pair of shoes, and on the shoe box it says embrace the journey.
Yeah. Thank you, Danskin. But true, but it's so relevant. It's so relevant because it really is. It's about the journey. It is about the process, right? We're not in this work of somatics. We're not like, there's no expectation of anything having to happen. Like, yeah. Client who was like, sorry, I just got distracted by the deer outside my window. It's just hanging out, who has a hard time. She is pretty overwhelmed all the time. She's someone who I would call in the nervous system world global high activation, just a lot of activation all the time, like has a hard time coming down, always exhausted, but always just overwhelmed at the same time, wired and tired, that kind of scene. And she was speaking of an experience she had that was like pleasant and positive. And I was like, awesome. When you speak to that, like, what do you notice? Trying to encourage a little bit of the felt sense of something other than overwhelm. And she was just like, I can't do what you're asking me to do, Leah. I can't do that. I'm like, she was getting upset. I'm like, no, that's okay. That's what we want to know. I'm not trying to tell you have to feel a thing. I'm just asking you what you know. You're noticing that you're overwhelmed and you can't access that. Great. That's exactly where we're starting with. That's exactly what we want to work with. Not trying to make anything happen. We're just meeting ourselves where we're at, but with curiosity. So like, I feel overwhelmed all the time, but what happens if I do this self-hold when I feel overwhelmed? Interesting. I can feel my feet on the floor a little bit more. Okay. Or I'm feeling overwhelmed all the time. What happens if I just stand up and let my body move the way it wants to? Actually, that feels really good. Like, I need to move that energy around. Okay, great. Or maybe it makes me feel nothing at all, or maybe it makes me feel even more activated, or whatever it may be, right? But you work with what's showing up. Yeah. And without any expectation of having it to be anything else. Yeah.
And I want to talk about the attuning to process rather than result here, because it's funny, because in my coaching work, I'm always very results, just trying to actually get wellness pros to be more results focused, less process focused. So now I'm going to say the opposite of what I normally say with healing with somatic. Like yesterday, I had this really, like, one of our main classroom was deleted with a click, and there's no backup in the system. Like, the tool that we pay to use has no, like, a lot of things have backup now. Although I think everybody remembers in high school, like, writing in a Word doc that went missing and just being like, what do you mean it's gone? Like, it was kind of like that, with just an enormous amount of work and it pushed just kind of like pushed me over the edge of all the other things that were still dysfunctional. So it was like this too. And it was like, wow, this is so insanely dysfunctional. And so I but I noticed my response was different,
Mm.
right? Of like my relationship to it. And the first thing I did was source safety.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, that's happening. Notice that that's happening. Did some work on it. Then went for a bike ride. And on my
Mm.
bike ride, and I did the same loop because I noticed for me, like patterning is helpful for my
Mhm.
mind to unwind. So I'm not like, you know what I mean? It's a very predictable loop. So especially when I know I'm in a more edgy state or vulnerable state, that will allow the thing to unwind. And I noticed I needed to talk. So I'm like riding my bike and I'm talking to all these people that I'm really angry at. So the emotion is like, it's so intense. And I'm saying things that are really nasty. And there's no one there. It's just me and my bike.
I'm cheering you. I'm cheering you on that. Okay, keep going. Yeah.
And I'm noticing as I'm doing it, I'm feeling better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm also noticing, and then I start joking with myself. I'm like, can you say that in a way that's funny? Because like I'm trying to, in this next decade of my life, become much more humor driven because I'm so intense and so serious and so pitta and so critical and all that. I'm like, so I'm inviting in that there's some part of my awareness that can bring humor into the situation, even though it's like a completely underdeveloped part of the self.
Yeah.
And this goes on for an hour.
Wow.
And I'm wondering, while it's happening, another part of myself is like, are you actually like, you can't actually say these things to these people because they won't want to, like, you can't say. And then some part of myself realized that I would never need to say these things to these people because they just had to be expressed out of my body. And they were true, but they weren't the whole truth, but they were true and needed release.
I'm so glad you're sharing this story because, and I'm so glad you have enough regulation and capacity and just trust in yourself for your own impulses to do these things that you know are helpful for you, right? Because this is what you just described is exactly how we work with anger in this, right? Healthy aggression. Anger is such a hard one. Anger is so hard because there are really not very good models of anger in our world, right? Growing up, it's either extreme violence or just shut it down. And in working with anger and healthy aggression, we often use imagination. And we often like, remember that situation or that person that you were angry at. And here are the rules. No one gets hurt. You don't get in trouble. You can unleash and do anything, no matter how crazy, violent, maybe angry, it doesn't matter. Like nobody's going to get hurt. Nobody's going to get in trouble. Right. But the key to it is like connecting to the body first, which I hear, it sounds like you were because, you know, the biking does that for you so much.
And I noticed that I would get like in mouth breathing and shallow and it wasn't accessing in my sinus. So I'd close my mouth, breathe, and then these words would come out and then you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, very much still in body motion, movement, awareness.
And then that's what I was talking about earlier, how like the protective response, there's an impulse to protect, to come out. The fight response wants to come out. You can't actually go punch these people in the face or whatever, right? But you can express that through exactly the way you did. And there's other ways to do it as well. But yeah, I love that. I love that you shared that. Yeah.
I want to share another thing that happened. So then it was, and I'm still, you know, was still in it, or just knew that some part of my nervous system was in this, you know, just typical like fight or flight emergency, put out the fire mode.
Yeah.
Right. So I know I'm like, until this fire is put out, it's in that mode. And then I'm like, am I addicted to this? So all of this is like, I'm starting to recognize like how much of this is the pattern and why are all the other choices I'm making resurfacing this pattern? Because I'm good at putting out fires. Right. But it's like, I'm also at the phase of life where I'm like, I want to experience something else. Right. And my nerve, like, I don't want to experience this. Humor. Yeah. Like this level of, if anyone's listening, you're like, wow, this is like a personal therapy session for Kate. Yes, it is. And that's what we're doing.
This is how people learn though too, right? So it's good.
Yeah, I hope so. And I know there's people that are listening. There's so many somatic practitioners that are listening that, yeah, I don't know. What I love in this conversation is there's just this level of humility, just like expert to expert humility. And like, and we're processing so much cultural trauma and maybe for the first time in history. And so there's a reason all of this is up. There's a reason people are talking about trauma-informed therapy and somatic healing experience. Like this is all up big time for all of us. And we're all skill building together in it. So then we're at my lake house and I wanted my mom to come here to experience some deep peace because it's so quiet and tranquil here. And also to just allow us to be in a shared space together. And she's close to 80 and has a lot of hearing loss, and she's an amazing, vibrant woman, like just, and so there's a lot going on. She made dinner while I was like trying, and she's super empathetic. So I'm like trying to solve the problem, that put out the fire. We go to dinner, and she, in the lake house, has this huge view of the lake, and there's birds everywhere, and she loves watching birds. And she does what she does, which is she all of a sudden, like there's some bird doing something. She's really, really excited. So her nervous system, like her voice gets a bit shrill, like very, very high. And we're about to sit down to dinner, and all I want to do is like chill for 25 minutes before I go back into problem solving. Mm-hmm. So I notice in my body, like her voice gets high and distracted, and I'm just like ready to sit down. Like we're literally ready to sit down and eat. Like we're at the table. She just gets super, super excited. And it's my mother. So I'm like, oh, this pattern is so deep and so old. And I just noticed, and a lot of it is because of exactly what, building capacity for the feelings of the body. And I noticed I'm like so irritated. Like I just want to like not.
Ooh, can I stop you right there? Look at that. You see how your hands went out there?
Right. I'm just like, I can't handle this. Like just no. Not this, right? Like it's every cell in my body is just like, just leave me to my own tranquility, because I can get tranquil. But then I'm like, no, that's not the point. So I feel the feelings. I notice that she's just excited about birds. Like I'm safe.
Yeah.
Right. Like she's in a state that seems agitated, but it's just excitement.
Yeah. And you notice how your hands kind of went into like little like claws when you're talking about her? Anyway, gestures are huge.
Gestures are huge, right? And also the sense of like, I can contain this. Like, this is okay. Like, okay, like this is exhale. And so I had to just exhale, drop in. We're safe. This is amazing. How cool that my mom is so excited about birds. Embrace.
I love that how you were able to separate how do I say this? Like the association of how your body responded because of how your mom was reacted. She was activated, but in a positive way. Activation doesn't always mean, fight, flight. It means, oh, I got energy. I'm excited, right? But for some reason that created a response in your body based on history, right? There's some kind of
so just like family trigger history. Yeah.
Totally. But you were able to separate, like uncouple is the fancy word I will use, is that history from the actual reality of the moment, and just experience. And that was allowed you to experience the feeling and then just to let it come down, right? To quote unquote, the reality or the safety in the here and now.
Yeah.
Our bodies remember though. That's the thing. There's so much memory in our bodies going back from, probably before birth. Like I had a mom who smoked cigarettes when I was in her belly, right? So I think about that as, like that, how that stresses out the fetus, and how, at a certain point, the sympathetic nervous system and the dorsal nervous system, part of the nervous system, so fight, fright, and freeze are on board at some point in utero before the baby comes out, before the baby's born. And so how my little unborn nervous system reacted to the lack of oxygen, essentially. And so I'm doing like this because what happens in utero is there's often some kind of undulation of the body, like that there's that charge in there, so there's like, it's like moving as if maybe it could get away, but it can't, right? And how, going back to pain, I was thinking about pain and just tension patterns of the body, about how those first movements really inform our bodies as adults, right? Inform how we sit and stand and crawl, those developmental milestones. I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but just to speak to how the body remembers these things, right? Early as being in the belly, it remembers like the pattern of your mom getting irritated and how you responded, even if she wasn't really mad at you, right? But she would just get irritated because she was stressed out of work, but that created a sense of not being safe in your world. So that created a response in your body. So now whenever your mom has that kind of tone of voice, that your body remembers, right?
Yeah. And then the gift, like to me, it was interesting because I feel like one of my intentions right now with both my parents as they're aging is to be like just in deep appreciation, right? Like that's right. And so I'm like, when I get triggered out of that, right? It's like, and what I love about that trigger now is it's like, I have some capacity building for the feelings of my body as the key to healing this relationship. And then what?
Yeah. And then what? Oh, I love you asked that, because part of this, when I'm in session with people, the question I ask, like, as you notice that response, what happens next, right?
Yeah.
There's back to no expectation, just curiosity. And then what? And then what? As I notice the tension in my diaphragm, as I put my tension there, what happens next? It could be nothing. It could be, oh, it gets more intense. It could be, oh, it feels like it wants to move. It could trigger a memory of something. It could make me want to move a certain way. It could, who knows, ... right?
Yeah.
That goes back to, not back to, but that speaks to this work is really about, part of it is really about listening, or our biological impulse, right? Like, what are the impulses body's trying to express for things that we need to feel supported? Like your impulse to take a drink of water, right?
Yeah.
My impulse to move, or to eat, or to connect, or to protect, or to express. And these impulses are really start off as these physical cues in our body that we're mostly unaware of. There's a physical, some kind of physical sensation, and then we form a thought to what that might be. At first, there's a feeling, a sensation of hunger, and then our brain interprets that as hunger, and they're like, oh, I should probably go get something to eat now, right? So by listening to the body too, then you can start to really connect to, like, going back to healing, right? Like, what do I actually need to support myself in this moment?
Yeah. And it with my associative brain is going to is how the primal habits or adversity habits are in a way accelerators to feeling, like feeling what, so if we, I mean, we can look at a few, like we can look at fasting, we can look at cryotherapy, we can look at urine therapy, we can look at more intense exercise. Is like we're feeling more, or even commune, like when we want to have more connection and relationship, we'll feel more of each other. And so there's that, it's like that cranking on the dial of capacity building. Because like I'll use two, cryo and fasting. So let's start with cryo. Like if I'm going to go in the lake right now, and the lake is 49 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So it's not warm. The first thing I'll feel is like the intensity, and then I'll feel my breath respond, and then I'll feel, more sensation around the deeper layers of skin, and then I'll feel sensation around muscles and joints, and you know what I mean, where it's just causing so much feeling. And if the lake was 30 degrees or just barely thawing out, right? Like low 30s, we'll say, just like melted ice, right? Then that would be even more intense for that first few minutes before things kind of quieted down. But that, like, turning that dial be so intense. Now, if I use like a fasting example, often when people start to go into developing that skill building around fasting, they're like, they feel all these sensations that normally they turn off with food.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now they're trying to hold a safe container around feeling what's coming up. And often it's negative before it's positive.
Yeah, I love that. And I find it so interesting too, because I remember speaking of impulse, right? So the body's trying to tell you something, get the heck out of this water. You are starving. You better eat something, right? And that might be actually really real in a sense. Like, obviously you're not going to freeze to death, and we're not going to starve to death because it's more of a controlled situation, but having this intense response from the body, but allowing yourself to find safety with it, right? Or whatever before it. And this, it's like building stress like that then enables for stressful situation, you to have more response for when actual real threat or difficult sensations really show up in your body, because you have a higher capacity for stress in that way, right?
Yeah. And then there's exactly, and it's then what happens, I find, with that capacity building, as soon as like you get in the water and you just feel inflammation dump from your system. Like you just feel the sensation is cold or icy, and it really quickly is like just that feeling of
yeah. And it's like once you can get away from the stress response, the immediate stress response, then you start to become aware of what else is there, right? Underneath.
Yeah, there underneath it.
Yeah, kind of like the experience with your mom. Once you were able to identify that you were just being triggered, you were able to see what else was available to you in that moment. It wasn't just that you were going to be irritated and your night was going to be ruined. You're able to actually come back down to where you wanted to be, right? And it reminds me of a phrase that I love that I've heard a lot of somatic experiencing teachers talk about, SEP. That's the fancy acronym, somatic experiencing practitioner. So if I say that, that's what it means. But it's about learning how to respond and not to react, essentially, to your body, to your feelings, to life. There's space between that immediate, like, I'm so angry, I'm gonna flip out, and there's space.
Yeah.
So you can have a sensation of that, but you're not going to respond in that way. You're able to be contained with it. And maybe you do need to go for a bike ride and get some of that out of your system so that it doesn't stay within you. Great. We want that. We want to be able to express anger and aggression. Maybe there's people, then maybe we can come back to the people and be like, in a very nice, contained way, be like, hey, this made me feel this way, blah, 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 right? Express your frustration or anger at them in a way that is safe and contained for them to hear, because that's important too, if that's necessary, right?
It was huge. I mean, for me in this instant, it was cool because I mean, to me, it's like there's kind of like cryo or fasting. Like the more we do it, the more we crave it, right? And the more we are building these capacities that give us new experiences in alignment with what we want to be experiencing more of. And I want to be a good leader. And so it was interesting for me to see my complete reframe or recontextualization of where I could take responsibility for all of the things that were happening with all of the people and actually create more functionality, like where it was just actually a call for me to get over an old pattern, right?
Yeah.
And then with them be like, what are they, like, who am I to them? Like and who do I have the opportunity to be?
Yeah.
And what do we have the opportunity to do together if I can be that with them? And that was how my day went, today. And what I noticed from all that is like in the past, I would have maybe had some shame. I don't know if it'd be maybe shame around all those words that I said on my bike to the air, to the mountains, to the lake, to the birds, to the moose, like just like saying all these things that clearly my body needed to express out of. And to do that without any shame, just be like, what else? And what else? Like just that, like,
it speaks to how far you've come, it speaks to where you are now and your level of healing and all you've done to get here, for sure. So like kudos to you, because it's not easy, right?
It's not. Well, and then to notice like an hour later, I'm triggered by my mom, who I love so much, who I'm just like here to create the supportive. And
there's some of that little bit of that healthy aggression still in there that didn't quite get to
or to the depth of that particular pattern. With her, that's trying to also get processed now, that there's just, it's cool to see the unraveling, right? And then the order of like, oh, this and then that. So do you want to speak a little bit to that, like this? And I'm going to go back to my Danskin box of like, we're healing, that there's like an embrace of the journey of what's happening.
Yeah, I like the unraveling. Gosh, I don't know. It's like embracing the journey. It requires a lot of patience. It's kind of like, I don't know, the transition, the change of the seasons, building a successful business, like all those things where you make these little things. It can feel like nothing's happening. You're doing the work, nothing's happening. Then all at once, it's spring, right? All at once, it's really about these, you talk about this, tiny habits, tiny shifts, and noticing when things are different. That's kind of the key. Noticing, for me, I remember the first time I was able to speak up to somebody and not just burst out into tears. And it wasn't even like they were like challenging me. It was just like I had to speak my opinion, right? And I was like, huh. And that was after I started this somatic work. I'm like, that's a sign. That's a sign, right? Noticing me getting angry, getting triggered by a friend who we have an interesting relationship, and not storming out of the room. I was able to look around my space and just be like feeling really intense, but I was like, okay, this is different. This is different, right? Noticing sitting on the couch and my kids having a meltdown, and I'm just like, I'm in Zen mode. And this isn't bothering me. Or this is a good one, getting ready for the kids for school in the morning. And, I was like, I'm moving fast, but it doesn't feel urgent, right? That was cool. Like, I don't feel like, oh my God. I was like, no, I'm moving fast and I'm just moving fast. So like noticing these little signs that things are different like that. And I was thinking about business stuff too, because I'm in WPA, been in WPA, yoga health coaching, your stuff, right? And I'm an entrepreneur. I got my online course, and this idea of, yes, we want results, but yes, also we do have to honor our own process, because for me, I get overwhelmed pretty easily. And there's so much content and things to do and things to improve on, making videos and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, Leah, like you just have to be okay with the fact that like you're meeting your edge, and it's okay to slow down. And it's okay to just do what you can. It's very good to have a plan. It's very good to know what you want, the goal for sure. But it's also okay just to be with yourself where you're at. Right. And it doesn't mean just don't do any of it, but at your own speed, your own pace, your own capacity, because I can't do it otherwise. I just can't. And then I beat myself up and then I feel like a failure and, you know, all those things like come up.
It really, to me, speaks to like know your own, it's like know your own goals because they're not, you know, and I love how Vishaan Lakhiani in The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, he talks about rules. He coined that, I believe he coined that term, rules or bullshit rules. But in Club Hero, which is part of Club Thrive, we call them goals, like bullshit goals. Like for someone, you know what I mean? Where it's like, I'm comparing myself to someone who's not me and their capacities and their networks, their standards, their skills, their competence. Like it makes no sense. So the deeper work is like, what's my deeper dream? Like it's so original, like each of us, it's so, and then it's so time of life specific and just allowing, and I love how that, just to tying it back to somatic work, it's like, I love how it's so able to change with us. Like we don't have, like say a goal was a real goal and then it became a bullshit goal because you entered a different phase of life. Like you're in a different rhythm, you're in a different space, or maybe the entire marketplace has changed, right? And so like reality itself has changed your reality. And so it's no longer applicable, and that ability to flex and flow with what's arising in the present is what, like the body's always in the present.
Yep. And that's what it is to be regulated and have a regulated nervous system is the flex and flow. Another thing we learned in my somatic experiencing training, one phrase that stuck out to me at least is it helps you move from fixity into flow, right? From being stuck, whether it's in mindset or a physical place in your body, has to do this way, I have to do it this way. Into that flow, right? There's so much more ease when you can just be like, when you don't make the problem a problem, right? It's just like, okay, that's happening. That's real. I'm not going to candy coat it, pretend it's not happening. But what if I just make it not a problem?
And you know, what's so funny? This is reminding me, Alex Hormozy, I was listening to one of his, like how to make a ad for, I mean, it could not be the more opposite of what we're talking about here. Like how can I make a more effective ad for, Meta or Instagram or any of that? And like the first thing was like disclose what you're not good at, follow that by something that you are good at. And it was like in that sense of like get grounded in, I only have this much capacity, but this is what I'm really good at. And I was thinking about that because I have some degree of UTF, which is to me when I don't feel in control, because all my issues are around control because of my early birth experience, et cetera. It's just like I don't. So right now it's like what's weird is my company's been in so much transition with both AI and contractor marketplace and systems and SaaS tools, tech stack, all of that. It feels really, really chaotic. So right now, like so ego driven, like I don't have as many members right now. So I used to have just a ton of people around me and it really inflated my ego. So right now it's really small because we haven't been functionally marketing for a long time. Right. And we're getting there, but we're fixing the deeper issues and it's slower than I expected. So right now it's like, there's not that many people in the community, right? Which is acknowledging what's real. And that allows my nervous system to settle. So there's no aggrandizing the goal or the reality. It's just like, this is what's going on right now that my nervous system feels as a negative. And this is hilarious because this is like Alex Hormozy Facebook ads training, right? But like how it's totally related to somatic experience.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And or but, and but is a stronger word in his, I can't remember why, but it is because it makes the mind see that there's going to be a comparison or a differential. And then like why that's actually potentially good.
Yeah. Why is it potentially good?
Well, and then it's like evidence based on what's working. So then it's like, but so right now there's not a lot of members in my community, right? And I just feel that. But I've proven the community model to a revenue of 1.5 million a year.
Okay, so let's stop. Can I stop you right there for a moment and bring in some somatics?
Yeah.
What do you notice in your body right now after just saying that to me, sharing that to me?
I notice I moved in the spectrum from left to right.
Yeah.
Right. So there's this comparison in this movement.
So what would happen if we just maybe do that movement again and just start from the left and go slow, slow. Yeah. If you want to do it again. Yeah, that's it.
And I noticed like relaxed and grounded and open, like there's an opening.
Interesting. And where in your body do you notice that? The opening?
More up.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as you experience yourself being with that opening and feeling it more up,
Yeah.
see what happens next, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we can keep going or not, because I know this is for your podcast. So
Yeah.
a little bit of a taste of like what it really, this work looks like, right?
Yeah. And that stopping and slowing down and the noticing is so, to me, what's been that skill building capacity, right? And the only way it's like, and we need a guide, like that whole idea of having an SCP, right? Of having someone, and you guys, I'll give you Leah's website again, but having someone to help us slow down. It's something that I notice. It's like, yes, we can be guided and we can do this or that, but it's like that in that moment where someone can bring us more deep into the experience.
Yeah. And there's something else Peter Levine says is like, we can't have someone do this for us, like the work of healing for us, but we also can't do it alone, right?
Yeah. Do you want to describe why before we close? Just like, why is that?
I think it speaks to the magic of co-regulation, right? And that part of the nervous system that is wired for connection finds safety with other people, right? Like we have to be motivated to do it, right? We have to be the ones who want to instigate the change we want to see, right? It's like trying to tell somebody of this great new diet you're on and, wanting them to do it. And they won't do it unless they're ready to do it. But we can't do it alone. We need other people. We need that other, like whether it's just someone to sit next to help our energy come down, or someone to facilitate this guided somatic thing, whatever it might be, or friends who can like relate to the experience that you have, right? Like we just can't do life alone. I think it speaks more to that. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of, and I need to find the source on this. There's a study on behavior change in the mammalian brain, and these like ancient parts of the brain that it takes tribe to change behavior. Like you can have information in that, but like we need someone else as mammals to do it. Leah, always so good hanging out with, and I just want to encourage everyone to do somatic experiencing if you haven't, and do more of it if you have. Leah Pira Murphy. I'm going to spell out your website. So Leah's Leah, Pira's Piera, Murphy MURPHY.com, and you can check out Leah's work there and schedule a session with her. And if you're in Club Thrive, come to our sessions with Leah. I'm so psyched that you're offering that to our members.
Yeah, me too. It was fun. We did the first one this week and it was so fun.
Hey.
Thank you for the opportunity to. I just want to appreciate that. And I appreciate you. Yeah, in the space.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure. Thank you, Kate, again.
All right, you guys. Hello, listeners. So I have created for the wellness pros out there who listen to this show, the Wellness Pro Launchpad, and I'll get you in for free. Just go to wellnesspro.academy /launchpad, LAUNCHPAD, Launchpad, and then just fill out the form and we'll get you right into this school classroom in here. And in the Launchpad, it's really cool. Like you get to see yourself as the hero in the path of the wellness pro, and then your client's transformation in A to B, and your vibe and your brand, your investment story, and design the journey for your clients, patients, or students, and then how to price from results. So these lessons are super short. They're each about 10 minutes, and you'll have a reframe on how to launch and scale the next phase of your wellness career. So wellnesspro.academy /launchpad, and then and on the inside, if you really want to launch, you can, like your next phase of growth as a wellness pro, then you can talk to me. See you soon.